We're looking forward so much to present Siblings to you guys, and this is Zemer's installation. I'm always amazed by her work, and I'm so honored to be able to sit here in a few minutes and play and be inspired by this installation and just be next to my sister.
Thank you, Amit, for performing. Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for having me and Amit. Thank you, Susan. I know it's your last exhibition before retirement, so congratulations. I'm gonna give you a bit of like half an hour, like a few, like a drive through my life in the last 39 years. And I will talk about also about the collaboration with Amit, with my brother. But yeah, so we'll see. I hate being on stage. I love my brother, but that's the main difference between us. He loves being on stage. I usually in the studio, stuck there, and not performing at all. I was born and raised in Kibbutz Israel, in the north part of Israel. You can see here, I love this image. It's really capturing the essence of, like, I think, of Israel and of me, basically. In the center, you see the kibbutz. In the north part, to the end, you see Nazareth, the old city and the new city. And in the front, you see the remaining of the Palestinian village that was occupied during the war in 48. What I love about Israel and what I hate and what I'm inspired by, it's the fact that everywhere you go, you can dig and you can find the history of the place and layers of stories and artifacts, and you can dig in the ground. This is from a site next to the kibbutz. I used to go there as a child. We always had archaeologists come to the kibbutz and dig in the archaeological site. So as a kid, I used to always look at these shards and be inspired by them. But back then, I used to be a dancer, so I wasn't really aware that this is going to be like a huge part of like my artistic journey. So this is just images from the site that you can excavate. Basically, everywhere you go, in Israel, if you dig in your garden, you can find something from the past, some message from different religion. So for me, the first time I left Israel and I got a chance to actually look back into my childhood, into where I'm from, and to reflect into this, into my art, was the first time when I went to London. I went to grad school, and this is my final exhibition in graduate school. I used all these shards. I made a bunch of piles of shards through the time of like 3 months. And that's basically my work until today. I'm making and breaking and reconstructing and demolishing my work over and over again. So there is nothing in the studio that is actually go to waste. I use everything through the dust. I use hammers a lot. I use my studio sounds like has a terrible sound. Yes, so it's not like the beautiful music you heard today. And so this was the beginning of my journey with a site-specific installation and large-scale sculptures. This piece I built, it took me about a week to construct it in the space, in the gallery space. I used all the pieces I made throughout the 3-4 months of just making pieces of ceramics, of porcelain, black and white porcelain together, without really knowing how the final piece will look like. So my site-specific work is never, I always have a plan somehow in my head, but it's very hard for me to give it a shape because it's always like shaping up during the installation. So it's very hard for me to come to spaces like this, in this gallery, and to get Susan to trust me when I tell her, I'm going to do a site-specific installation, and I have no idea how it's going to look like. But over the years, I got to build up this trust with the curators, so I'm very grateful. But this piece, this is the first piece I made, and it ended up looking like that. It was 2 pieces that were almost touching each other. And I love how it's reflecting the back of the garden, is reflecting to the piece itself. So what took me 3 months to make was broken in 10 minutes. I have a video of this somewhere that I can't find, but it was really physically a lot of tension and very emotional thing to do, to be able to build something for so long, to put all your effort and your artistic creation, and then in the end just to smash everything. I love this moment and I hate this moment, but it's a very powerful moment in my work. So these pieces are not permanent. I also have like permanent pieces that are fired. I have some pieces here from upstairs. I just want you to hear the sound of the ceramics. It's not something that we usually think about, ceramics and sound or ceramics and music, because it always takes us to a place where something is broken and this is a bad thing. We always tell our kids, be careful, don't break it. And ourselves also, if we break something, we're always scared. And I like to play with this tension in the studio and also in the creation of my pieces. So this is just the fired pieces. If you had a chance to see the work upstairs. So the piece was inspired by the notes of the suite, the sixth suite that my brother just played. And I'm trying to create a language, a story with the pieces, with the shards, and to get something, a visual look of something that can't really move, but you just imagine yourself, the sound of it and the movement, and it's almost like letters and notes. And so I'm hoping that people see this piece upstairs and they will hear something in the back of their head, or they will hear a song, or they can read something from their imagination. Because that's what happens when I see these notes. I have no talent for music, absolutely no talent for that. I can't read notes, so for me it's like a blur to see this. But I do, as a visual artist, I do look at it as a visual piece of art. So the process of making, this installation, again, I built everything in the studio, and I brought it into the gallery. And I had some idea of like how I'm going to install it, but everything pretty much came to life at the gallery during these 4 days of installation. So these are the individual pieces. I love in my work to make one piece in repetition, to get this repetition over and over again. And I'm thinking also about classical music and repetition, and how it inspired each other. I look at Amit, like how he practice the cello. Basically every classical musician needs to practice, then they have like a very tight discipline. And I feel this way sometimes at the studio as well. Not sometimes, many times I have to have a discipline to go to the studio every day, even if I don't want to, because it's my, that's what I do for full time. But you have to have a lot of discipline to make pieces over and over and over again. And in some way it becomes like a meditation, which that's what really intrigued me in my work. So I think I got help. I had an assistant. I was 9 months pregnant during this building of the installation. So I had an assistant, and I think we made like thousands of these hooks. And basically everything is hanging on each other, and holding the pieces of ceramic. It's all the weight is holding itself. The piece is holding itself. So there is a lot of breaking during the installation and after, so the piece continued to live all the time. This is images from the studio, the way we fire the pieces. We just stack everything together. And the ceramics is also, it's an amazing material because it changes all the time before the firing, and during the firing, and after the firing. There is a movement. You see something still, but there is a movement and music to it all the time, which that's what I love about this material. And these are just images from the firing, like a bit of process images. And that's me installing, very big, 9 months, she's out, and everything's good. It was the hardest installation I've ever done. Climbing on these ladders, and it was something else, yeah. But she's home now, so she's happy. And it was like giving, every time I do this installation, it's like to give birth to a new piece of art, because I don't know how it's going to look like. I have like sketches, but it's always like something new that come out of me. So it was a special moment to be pregnant during this piece. That's another project we did, Amit and I, back in 2017, which was a similar like fragments. This one I used porcelain at the North Dakota Museum of Art. Again, I made all the pieces at the studio, and we built it at the space. There was a beautiful light there that I used for the pieces. The reflection and the shadows were really stunning. The piece just changed during the day all the time. It was an amazing space. It almost looked like a fabric, or like I don't know, like ghost. And that's what happened in that piece over there. It just kept on breaking over time because of the weight of the porcelain. So it really was like breathing. And it was hanging all from the ceiling. And back then I put my brother in more danger position. So it's getting better. Over the years we're getting, I'm not trying to kill him anymore. But I was a bit scared too, because it kept on like falling, and his cello is very expensive. So. But that was also very, very special for like to have a concert next to the pieces. It just like bring everything together. It's a beautiful moment for me as an artist. And we also do concert at my studio at the Crown Industrial Park, which is in East Baltimore. As I said, I moved to Baltimore thanks to Amit. He convinced me. He's a cello professor at Peabody, and he's been here for the past almost 20 years, right? Yeah, almost 20 years. And I kept coming to Baltimore and like visiting for holidays and coming back, and no, I will never move here, and this is not a place for me. But in the end, I did, and I'm so happy. I found the most amazing studio, and it's really hard to see, but it's a huge space, industrial space, beautiful. So we do concert there. That's what I do with the hammer. Huh?
You found your husband as well here.
I found my husband. I have 2 kids now, so yes. And I love putting him to work. The cellist that always is very careful for his fingers. But you have to do what you have to do when you come to my studio. So I will just go back a few years to when I moved to the US. It was like my best 2 years of residency in Montana at the Archie Bray Foundation. That was like 6 years ago. And back then I researched more the blue and white porcelain, the Japanese blue and white wares, and I was trying to take the 2D and to get the 3D sculptures out of the drawings. And again, I'm using this whole time. I'm using shards, and I'm developing more the colors and the shapes. So it changes all the time, but the shards are still there, and it's like I'm building my own history with the shards and with my work. So this piece is about this size. So I work from very small pieces to very large scale. And these pieces are permanent, so they're all fired, if you all know the ceramics process. They're all fired, so I don't break them in the end. They're here for to stay. And this is one of the drawing on the plates I was looking at. I was trying to enlarge this drawing into like a life-size sculpture. And these are all the small pieces I used. So it takes me a long time. People always ask me how long it takes me to build the pieces, but it doesn't take too long to build the sculpture itself. It takes a long time to build all the shards. So I will just spend months and months of just making all these like different shapes and different colors. I call them feathers because it reminds me of like birds and feathers. But it's all, I use mostly porcelain. And this is just the breaking of the pieces. The sound was terrible for me. I love this sound, but I used to have neighbors in the studio and they hated it and they hated me for, it's like really hard to listen to it. But I just kept on like breaking and sort all the pieces to different colors and different shades of blue and white. And that's the point where I'm starting to actually compose everything together to one piece. And that's the final result. And that's another piece. So I use different techniques for the shards, like I use extruder and slabs and hand pinched ceramics, so many different techniques. Los Angeles was another stop before, my last stop before Baltimore. And over there I was looking more at like nature. I love the Joshua Tree National Park. It was one of my favorite spots to go visit and to make drawings and inspiration. I think it's one of my favorite trees. It has so much character in it. And a lot of cactus and cacti, and I love looking at these forms of nature. And I was working on a solo show in Los Angeles, and this was like I will just show you a few images of the behind this, like the studio shots. So I used fired clay, porcelain, and I use also ceramic like clay, wet clay as the base for the pieces, and I fire everything together in the end. So I really need like, this piece is really big, so I had to have like huge kilns for that. Let's show. And that's my recent addition to the studio, my favorite assistant, and thank you.
We're looking forward, so